In the dark silence of space, a silver alien ship moved quietly toward Earth. Commander Shirak stood at the front window, his long fingers tight around the cold metal rail. His large black eyes stared at the blue planet, glowing softly in the distance. This was the moment his people had waited for, their first contact with humans. Shirak thought it would be easy. The humans looked weak in their history books, always fighting, always divided. They must be tired of wars now, he thought. His plan was simple: arrive, show their advanced weapons, and demand Earth's surrender. But something felt wrong as the ship moved closer. His scanners began to flash warnings. "Commander," his science officer said nervously, "Earth has more weapons than we thought." Shirak frowned. "How many?" The officer's hands shook. "Too many, Commander. They're satellites. They're rockets, everywhere. Even deep underground." Shirak's heart pounded. He never imagined humans could build this much firepower. Still, he thought maybe these weapons were old and weak. Land the ship near their largest military base. Shirak ordered. The crew obeyed, but they were afraid. As they flew lower, they saw human jets flying fast, tanks lined up along roads, and soldiers training calmly. But what surprised Shirak most was that no one seemed worried about the alien ship above them. The humans didn't even look at them. There were no panic alarms, no sirens, nothing. Shirak watched carefully. A human general stood near the tanks, giving orders to his soldiers. But his voice was soft, calm. His face showed no fear. This confused the alien commander. "Why aren't they scared of us?" Shirak whispered to himself. He ordered his translator to listen to the general. The translator repeated the words. "War? We don't want war, because for us, it would be too easy." Those words hit Shirak like a punch. Too easy? What did that mean? His crew whispered behind him, afraid. Could it be true? Could humans be hiding something worse than what their scanners showed? Shirak ordered a scan of Earth's entire surface. The results made him feel cold. Every city, every country, filled with deadly weapons. But it wasn't just the military. Even civilian industries were capable of turning into weapon factories quickly. Everywhere he looked, he saw preparation. But not fear. Humans looked ready, but not interested in fighting. That was even scarier, Commander, his security officer said quietly. "It's like they are saying they could destroy us, but they don't care to." Shirak didn't answer. His mind raced. This was not what he expected. He came here thinking humans were weak, tired, divided, but instead, they acted like a sleeping dragon, a dragon that didn't want to wake up, but could burn the whole galaxy if disturbed. He watched the human general again. The man smiled as he watched his soldiers train. No fear, no concern about the giant alien ship watching them from the sky. Shirak's crew grew nervous. Some begged him to retreat, but Shirak wanted to understand more. He wanted to know why these humans acted so calm when they could be facing invasion. Did they really think war would be easy for them? Or did they know something terrible? Before he could decide, another message came from the translator. A soldier near the general laughed and said, "Commander, why bother fighting aliens? If they attack, we'd finish them before lunch." That joke was the final warning. The aliens now realized this was not weakness. This was supreme confidence. Humans didn't rush to war because, for them, war was nothing, too easy, too simple, not worth their time. Commander Shirak stepped back from the window. His hands were shaking now, for the first time. He felt true fear, fear not of what humans might do, but what they could do. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. He said only one thing: prepare to observe them quietly. We must learn more before we act. As the alien ship stayed in Earth's sky, hidden by its cloaking field, Commander Shirak's mind burned with questions. How strong were these humans? Why did they avoid war? And if they did choose to fight, would it even be a fight at all? The first contact was over, but the real terror was only beginning. Commander Shirak sat alone in his cold metal chair. his large black eyes staring at the data screens. The more he studied humans, the more afraid he became. Their cities looked normal, tall buildings, busy streets, smiling families, but hidden under this peaceful life was something dark, something powerful. Chirac knew he could not trust what he saw with his eyes. Humans were hiding their true strength. He called his scout team. "Go to the surface," he ordered. "I want to know their secrets. Find out why they act so calm. Why do they avoid war?" His scout team landed quietly at night, invisible to human eyes. They moved through a forest near a human military base. At first, everything looked normal, simple camps, trucks, quiet guards. But then, one scout found a strange entrance hidden under the ground. A steel door, covered by dirt and trees. The door had no guards, no alarms. It looked like no one cared about it. But their scanner showed it led deep underground, hundreds of meters deep. Chirac gave the order, "Enter and report." Inside, the scouts moved slowly down cold metal stairs. The air smelled clean but sharp, like machines. Then they saw a large underground hall filled with strange machines, some small, some large, some looking like simple boxes. But the readings on their scanners showed deadly energy inside them. One small device alone could destroy an entire alien warship. And there were thousands of them, just sitting quietly. Chirac listened to the report and felt cold fear in his chest. These weapons were not even guarded. The humans were so confident that they didn't feel the need to hide them properly. It was as if they knew no one would dare attack them. Suddenly, the scout's camera picked up voices. Two human scientists were walking past the machines. They laughed and talked softly. Chirac ordered the translator to listen. One scientist said, "You know, if aliens ever attack, we wouldn't even have to use the big missiles." The other laughed. "Yeah, these little machines here would finish any enemy in minutes. But thankfully, we humans prefer peace." Chirac's crew sat in silence on the ship. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. These small human devices looked harmless, but they were more deadly than the aliens' most advanced weapons, and yet, humans laughed about them. They talked about peace while standing next to machines that could erase whole armies. Chirac's mind raced. Why did humans avoid war if they could easily win? Was it because they had learned from their past? Was it because their wars long ago had been so terrible that even victory brought them sadness? His science officer spoke carefully. "Commander, they avoid war. Not because they can't win, but because it would be too easy. They seem to think it's not worth it." This truth made Chirac feel weak. His empire was strong, but the humans, they were beyond strong. They chose peace because war was boring for them. War was a simple task, not a challenge. At that moment, the scout team sent another image. It showed a room deep underground where humans kept ancient weapons, old, rusty, but still deadly. Even their old weapons could destroy entire cities, and they just left them there like forgotten toys, hook and suspense. Chirac realized that humans were like a sleeping giant, a giant that didn't care to fight, because it knew that no enemy could truly hurt it. But if awakened, this giant could destroy worlds without effort. Why had they stayed peaceful all this time? What would happen if one day they did choose war? Chirac sat back in his chair. His crew watched him carefully. They all knew now, this mission was no longer about conquest, it was about survival. They needed to understand humans, because one wrong move could wake the giant, and then it would be too late. Commander Chirac's long fingers tapped nervously on the table as he watched his scout team's live feed. Every second, new details about human technology made his fear grow deeper. But what came next shocked him in ways he could not imagine. The scout team moved deeper into the underground base. The air became colder and the walls stronger. This part of the base was different, quiet. No humans in sight. Suddenly, they entered a large round chamber with a single device in the center. It didn't look dangerous. It was small, just a black metal sphere resting on a simple platform. There were no guards, no cameras, no alarms. The floor around it was dusty. It looked forgotten, abandoned, but when the scouts scanned it, the results made their blood run cold. The power inside the sphere was beyond anything their empire had ever seen. It was not a bomb, not a missile. It was something far worse. Chirac called his science officer. "What is that?" he demanded. The officer studied the readings. His voice shook as he spoke. "Commander, this is a reality-bending device. If activated, it can erase matter itself, not just ships or cities, but whole areas of space. It can remove existence itself from a region, quietly, instantly." Chirac felt dizzy. The humans had built a machine that could silently erase reality itself. And they just left it here, forgotten, covered in dust. It was like a child leaving a loaded weapon on the floor and walking away. Then the scout team noticed something even stranger. On a wall near the sphere was a plaque. The translator read it aloud. "Prototype 17 too powerful, not practical for war. Decommissioned." Chirac couldn't believe it. The humans didn't use this weapon because it was too powerful. They built it, tested it, and decided it was boring, not useful, too easy. His crew whispered in fear. They avoid war because they have nothing left to prove. They are beyond war. They could end us in seconds. But they choose peace because fighting us would not challenge them. Hook and suspense. The real horror wasn't that humans had dangerous weapons. The real horror was that their deadliest creations were now gathering dust. Because humans no longer needed them, their strength was so far beyond all others that war had become meaningless. As the scout team turned to leave the chamber, they passed a human engineer working at a table nearby. He didn't even look up. He just whistled softly, adjusting a small tool in his hand. It was like he didn't care that an alien invasion could be happening above him. His confidence was absolute. Why? Because he knew what Commander Chirac now knew. If humans ever wanted to destroy their enemies, they could do it without even trying. For them, war was not a danger. It was simply too easy. Commander Chirac ended the scout feed and sat in silence. His empire had prepared for this mission for decades. They had trained, planned, built ships, designed weapons, but none of it mattered. The humans had surpassed them long ago, and now they didn't even care about proving it. Chirac knew this was no longer a mission of conquest. This was a mission of survival. He had to understand how humans thought, why they avoided war, because if they ever chose war, no one would survive. The chamber's image burned in his mind. A simple, dusty room, a quiet, forgotten device, a human worker whistling calmly, and the terrifying truth. Humans avoided war not because they feared losing, but because winning was too easy and too boring for them. Commander Chirac sat alone in his quarters. The lights in the alien ship dimmed to a soft blue as his mind raced. Everything he thought about humans was wrong. Their quiet confidence, their dusty, forgotten weapons, it all pointed to a terrifying truth. But he needed to understand why humans avoided war. What had made them so dangerous yet so peaceful? Chirac ordered his science officer to hack into Earth's old digital archives. "Find their history," he commanded. "Show me how they became this way." The alien computers worked fast, pulling thousands of years of human records. At first, Chirac saw the usual story. Small tribes fighting for land, ancient kingdoms rising and falling, wars over territory, power, and pride. But then, something changed. Chirac leaned closer. In just the last few hundred years, humans had fought world wars. Not small battles, but wars that involved entire nations. Weapons that killed millions. Cities turned into ashes. Landscapes burned beyond repair. His eyes widened when he saw images from the 20th century. Dark skies filled with smoke. Ruins where once great cities stood, and worst of all, mushroom clouds rising into the air. The first time humans had split the atom and created weapons that could destroy entire civilizations in moments. Hook and suspense. But the horror did not stop there. After these terrible wars, Humans didn't stop building weapons. Instead, they became even better at it. More precise, more deadly. Their technology advanced faster than any species Shirak had ever studied. Yet, after all this power, all this destruction, humans chose peace. They built machines that could wipe out entire planets, but locked them away. They trained armies that could conquer galaxies, but sent them on rescue missions instead. Why? Shirak asked his translator to search human records for an answer. And there it was. An old speech, spoken by a human leader after their most terrible war. The leader's words appeared on the screen. We learned the hard way that winning wars means nothing if the world is gone. We learned that true strength is not in fighting, but in choosing not to fight when you know you could win easily. These words hit Shirak like a laser blast. Humans had learned from their own horror. They had seen what war really meant when you are too powerful. They didn't stop building weapons because they feared weakness. They stopped fighting because they feared their own strength. His crew sat in silence as more history unfolded on the screen. Humans had gone to the moon, built machines that explored other planets, created medicine that cured deadly diseases, but all along, they still kept their weapons perfect, ready, silent. Just in case, Shirak felt something cold deep in his heart. Humans could end entire empires without effort, yet they preferred peace not because they were kind, but because war was too easy and too sad for them. Their mercy was not weakness, was control. A terrifying control that came from understanding the true cost of their power. At that moment, a new message came from the scout team. They had found a museum deep underground. Inside were the burned remains of weapons from old human wars, but at the entrance of the museum, a simple sign read, "Here we remember. So we never forget why we choose peace." Shirak felt sick. The humans remembered every terrible thing they had done, and they never wanted to do it again. But if pushed, if forced, they would destroy any enemy without mercy. The alien commander now fully understood the horror of human history. Humans didn't avoid war because they lacked weapons. They avoided war because they understood it too well. Better than anyone, their peace was a choice. A terrifying choice made by the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Shirak looked at his officers and spoke quietly. From this day forward, we will respect Earth, not because they threaten us, but because they don't. That is the scariest power of all. Commander Shirak walked slowly across the bridge of his ship. His mind was heavy with what he had learned. Human history was full of war, destruction, and terrible power. Yet they chose peace, not from weakness, but because they feared their own strength. But one question still burned inside him. What if humans did not need their advanced weapons to fight? What if their real power was something deeper, something hidden? Shirak ordered his scout team to observe ordinary human life. Find out how they live, he said. I want to understand why they are so confident, why they laugh even when we fly above them. The scouts moved through human cities, invisible to human eyes. They watched shops, schools, parks, homes. At first, everything looked peaceful. People walking their dogs, families eating together, children playing. But something strange became clear. Almost every human knew how to fight. Even the civilians, farmers, teachers, shopkeepers, moved with quiet readiness. In a small park, a human mother taught her child how to throw punches properly. At a cafe, two old men discussed tactics from ancient battles. Even a baker in a small shop kept a sharp blade nearby and handled it with skill, hook, and suspense. It was as if humans, as a species, were born ready for war, even if they chose not to fight. Shirak's scouts watched a sports match between two human teams. It looked like just a game, but the speed, strength, and teamwork they displayed shocked the scouts. The translator whispered, "This game is training. They call it sport. But they are training without even realizing it." Shirak realized that humans did not need to call an army. They were an army. Every human had the mind of a soldier. Every street could become a battlefield in seconds. Every tool could become a weapon if needed. The scout team sent another report. From a quiet village, they saw an old woman repairing tools. She smiled kindly, but beside her were books on combat strategy. She knew how to survive any attack. Even children practiced with wooden sticks, laughing as they learned basic defense. Moves. Chirac sat back in his command chair and whispered to himself, "Their entire population is a hidden army. They don't need large war machines to defeat us, because every single one of them is ready to fight if needed." That thought was terrifying. Aliens had always believed that armies lived in barracks, wore uniforms, and carried weapons. But on Earth, the army wore normal clothes, lived normal lives, and yet every one of them was ready to act. This explained their calmness. This explained why no one panicked when his ship arrived. The humans didn't need to prepare. They were always prepared. Chirac turned to his officers and said, "We could attack their cities, but their children would fight us. Their teachers would fight us. Their farmers, their engineers, even their artists would fight. And they would win." The aliens realized a deep truth. Human strength was not just in their terrible weapons or their machines. It was in their spirit. Their history had shaped them into a species that could defend themselves at any moment, without warning, without fear. This unseen army was far more dangerous than any military the alien empire had ever faced. It was an army that needed no orders, no leader, no preparation, just one reason, and they would rise together. Chirac now understood. Humans avoided war not because they couldn't win, but because they knew they could win too easily. Their calmness, their smiles, their peaceful lives, they were all choices made by a species that could destroy any enemy without effort. And that made them the most dangerous enemy of all. As Chirac looked out the window at the blue planet below, he whispered, "Respect Earth, fear them, because they do not fear us." The cold air inside the alien ship felt heavier than ever. Commander Chirac could not sleep. His mind replayed everything he had learned. Humans had terrible weapons. Their history was filled with brutal wars. And their entire population was a silent army. But there was something even more strange. Humans were not alarmed by the alien presence. In fact, it almost seemed like they were waiting, not scared, not angry, but patient. That patience frightened Chirac more than their weapons. He decided to send a small message directly to the humans, a quiet transmission, hoping for a peaceful response. His translator crafted the words carefully. "Greetings from the stars, we come in peace, may we speak?" To Chirac's surprise, the humans answered immediately. A simple message returned. "Come and speak face to face." Chirac hesitated, but curiosity and fear drove him to agree. He landed his shuttle near a quiet human research facility, far from cities and armies. There, waiting for him, was a human scientist, not a soldier, not a general, just an ordinary man wearing a lab coat. He smiled calmly as Chirac stepped onto Earth's soil. The scientist held a small device in his hand, but it was not a weapon. He waved gently. "Welcome," he said. His voice friendly but firm, hook in suspense. Chirac sensed something strange. Behind that smile, like the scientist was not meeting a visitor, but testing one. After a short silence, the human spoke words that chilled Chirac's heart. "We saw your ship before it even entered orbit. We've been watching your movements since you arrived. You want to know why we avoid war?" Chirac nodded. Slowly, unable to speak, the scientist's eyes narrowed slightly as he continued. "We avoid war because for us, it would not be a fight. It would simply be a task." Chirac felt his knees weaken. The human didn't speak with pride or anger. He spoke like someone explaining how to fix a machine. Simple, routine, easy. The scientist added quietly, "We have fought before. We learned what it means to win too. Easily now, we prefer peace. But if you force us, we will treat war like any other job that must be done." These words were not shouted. They were spoken softly, gently. And that made them more terrifying. Chirac realized something even worse than what he had feared. Humans did not enjoy war. They didn't fear it, either, for them. It had become something dull, a task on a list, a problem to solve quickly and efficiently, without excitement, without mercy, without hesitation. The scientist smiled again and said, "That is your warning now. Please return to your people. And choose peace, because if we must act, we will end it before lunch." Chirac's translator confirmed that phrase was not a joke, it was the truth. The alien commander bowed his head. He returned to his ship in silence. His crew waited anxiously. They asked, "Commander, what did they say?" Chirac answered simply, "They avoid war, because for them, it would be too easy to win. And they see war as nothing more than a task to complete, nothing more." The crew fell silent. No one questioned him. They all understood. Earth was untouchable, not because of shields or numbers, but because of this terrifying human mindset, a mindset that treated total victory as something simple, something casual. Chirac sat in his command chair one last time and ordered, "Prepare the ship for retreat. We will never return here again." The warning had been clear, too clear, and now the alien empire itself would be warned. Never anger the humans they avoid. War, because they don't need war to prove their power. The alien ship floated quietly above Earth, hidden by cloaking fields, but inside, the crew was no longer calm. After everything they had seen, the forgotten weapons, the terrible history, the unseen army, and the human scientists chilling. Warning, they understood the truth. Earth was the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, and humans, the most terrifying species. Commander Chirac stood before his crew, his voice heavy but firm. "Prepare for immediate retreat," he ordered. "We will not invade. We will not return. This mission is over." His officers did not question him, even the bravest soldiers now feared what they had learned. Humans avoided war because it bored them. They avoided war because winning was too easy. That was the horror. As the engines powered up, Chirac looked one last time at the blue planet below. It looked so peaceful, oceans calm, cities shining with lights, people laughing in parks. But he knew this was only the surface. Beneath that peace was unimaginable. Power and a quiet readiness, hook and suspense. In that moment, Chirac realized something deeper. It was not just Earth that was dangerous. It was the human spirit. Even without their machines, without their armies, humans would fight. They would adapt. They would overcome. They would win. Their strength came not from weapons, but from their will. A will shaped by thousands of years of terrible lessons. A will that could not be broken. As the ship left Earth's orbit, a final message appeared on their communication screens from the same human scientist. "Thank you for your visit. Remember, we prefer peace, but we will always be ready." Those words were simple, yet filled with power. The crew sat in silence as Earth faded into the distance. Chirac knew that he must warn the entire alien empire. Do not touch Earth. Do not provoke the humans. They choose peace not because they fear us, but because they don't. And if they ever change their mind, if they ever decide to fight, they will end us before we even understand the war has begun. His final report to his empire was clear and terrifying. Remove Earth from the invasion list forever. In the deep darkness of space, far from Earth now, Chirac sat quietly. He felt respect and deep fear, because he finally understood the truth no other alien had known. The humans avoided war because, for them, it would be too easy to win.